Hey everyone, CPO here, and I just did something that I don't think's ever been done before. I just put an auxiliary output on my Pocket Pro 2 shot timer. In this video, I'm going to explain why, and I'm going to show you how. Alright guys, so yeah, this is a Pocket Pro 2 shot timer from Competition Electronics. Pretty popular shot timer, really like it a lot. The problem is, it has a loud beeping sound. I've got a 2-second par timer set there, so you can hear that beep. You can turn the volume down, or you could turn it off. But what I really wanted was a way to route it to headphones, and even more to the point, my Ear Pro. So originally when I was shopping for shot timers, I was wondering if there was one that had an auxiliary out, and I just really couldn't find anything. There was some really high-end stuff that had an aux out, but it was more for external electronics, not necessarily headphones out. So I took it upon myself to see if I could make this happen, and I solved that problem. Now, keep in mind what I'm going to show you is going to void your warranty if you have one. So keep that in mind. Once you do this, you're pretty much gonna have to keep it even if you screw it up. But anyway, why did I do this? It seems obvious, but it may not be, right? So when I'm on a range, particularly an indoor range, it's pretty crowded, there's people all around me, and I want to use shot timer. Yeah, I don't want everybody to have to hear the shot timer around me. It would be kind of annoying to be next to somebody who's always beep, beep, beep. So I thought, you know, if I could route that into my ears, then I can hear it and nobody else can. Then at home, doing dry fire practice, I do dry fire practice sometimes with the timer, and my wife already gets annoyed with me just, you know, cycling the slide and then hearing the click of the trigger all the time. Now add on top of that constant beeping, and if I'm setting a par time, it's 2 beeps for every time I do something, so that's super annoying. So then I thought, wouldn't it be great if when I was at home, I could route this to headphones and then sort of have a little bit quieter practice time. So yeah, that's why I did it. Let me just demonstrate for you. One of the interesting things, I think, because, you know, I'm kind of interested in my own achievements, is I made it so that when you plug in an auxiliary output cable, it will disable the external speaker. So now that I have a cable in there, it's working, but it's not going to the speaker, it's going to the aux out cable. Now, let me simplify this. Regular pair of headphones. These are Sony headphones. This is actually what I use to edit video with. I'm going to plug the headphones into the Pocket Pro 2. And I'll bring them down here to the microphone so you can hear. Ready? Do you hear that? That's through the headphones. Now the volume works exactly the same way. I can go in here into the menu option and set the volume level. See if you can hear that. Gets quieter till it's off. Now, with the headphones, I find I get the same sort of response from volume as I do the external speaker. All the way down to the mute or the off in the lowest setting, all the way up to the high. Pretty much works exactly the same. One thing I did notice is it's a little bit different when I plug in the Ear Pro. So these are walkers. I did a video on those, and also adding in these soft gel cups. But let me show you this here. So these walkers, the reason I got them is they had the auxiliary input. So I have this cable. This is just a mono cable. I did mono for this. I didn't think it really needed stereo. I don't mind just hearing it. Actually, in this case, it's in the left ear. Plug this into here. All right, so I have a cable connecting my Ear Pro to my shot timer. And let's see if you can hear that. So you hear that, it's got a weird kind of a sound. That's because the volume is down on this. So What I found is on this ear pro, I need to get the volume up to about 3/4 or higher for it to sound like a normal beep. But there you go. Hopefully you can hear that. The other weird thing is when I turn on the ear pro, the higher the volume on the electronics, the lower the volume of the beep inside my ear. So yeah, and I'm not sure if that's just an anomaly with these or they all work that way. Not sure. But end result is I can put these on. I can set part times or start times, and I hear the beep in my ear, but nobody around me has to hear it. So yeah, that's why I did it. Let me show you what I did. All right, guys, close up real quick before I disassemble. There you go. You can see that auxiliary out. It's just a standard 3.5 millimeter jack, and it turns out plenty of room to add that into there. I put it opposite the button, and then of course it needs to go on this half of the clamshell just for the way the internals are set up. But yeah, let's dig into this. All right, so the first thing we want to do is remove the battery, get that undone. And then there are 4 screws, one on each corner of this. There they all are. Set those aside. All right, once you do that, you can pull this top part off, and the battery connector is just going to feed through. So normally this would be a separate piece, but right now I have it connected with my modification. The button here is sort of spring-loaded for external access, so you can sort of pull that out of there and set that aside. Now there's 4 other screws holding this inner PCB together. Actually, before I do that, let me just show you how that looks on the inside. So basically, these jacks, unfortunately I bought a 10-pack because that was the easiest way. It was like $5 for 10 of them. So these are mono and they're switchable. And what that means is, in order to have it disable the external speaker, I needed to have sort of a switch mechanism in there, and I'll show you how that works once I get it apart. But there's 4 larger screws holding this board down. Now I do have a lot of excess cable here that I don't necessarily need, but I like to be able to pull everything apart and not have it so tight that I can't work on it. And so yeah, that's why I left them long. One more. All right, now this isn't for the faint of heart. If you're not a solderer, then you know, this is probably not going to be a fun experience for you. And so this whole thing's going to come out just like that. This is the board. There are some little buttons right there. You don't want to lose those. Pop those right back there. Now this is post modification. I'll put up a pic right now of what it looked like before I modified it. And essentially all that's changed is this right here, because that used to have the speaker attached. It was through hole into the PCB, and I've since modified that. So that's really what's changed. Yeah, I'm kind of a nerd. I have a PCB jig. So this is the back side of the PCB. The other side has, I'll call the front, it's got most of the stuff and all of the buttons. Now the speaker was actually connected right here. So it's got, I'll pull this tape off so you can see. It had 2 pins on it, a plus and a minus pin. The plus one was the longest one, and basically right here where I have these 2 wires soldered in are 2 holes. These 2 pins on the little piezo speaker buzzer thing were through there, and it was just basically sitting like that on the board. And what I did is I flipped it over, and they were sticking out this side. I just used a soldering iron, added a little bit of solder and loosened those up. Now, this isn't a soldering class, so if you're not familiar with soldering or electronics, pay a friend to do it or something, but you're not gonna get that much detail from me on the soldering part of this. But anyway, I removed that, and then basically that left me those 2 vias there that I ended up soldering basically surface mount to. So what I have here is I have 2 wires connected to the negative and 1 wire connected to the positive. So the negative goes to the negative side of the piezo speaker, and then the other negative goes to the negative tab on this jack. Then I have the positive going from the PCB into the positive input on this jack, and then going out on the other tab to the positive on the speaker. That allows me to have the speaker work when the jack is not in use, but when the jack is in use, it disables the speaker. And I know this is complicated, but I'll try and show you how this works. So there's 3 tabs. This is sort of a switching jack, and you can see, I'll use this little stub here. When you plug in a plug, this connection breaks right here. There's an inside tab and an outside. When I pull it out, that is connected, right? So when you plug this in, it disconnects that circuit, and that is what I'm using to disable the internal speaker. So without something plugged in, the internal speaker is connected through here, and when that is plugged in, the external speaker gets disconnected, and now the positive is routed just to the headphones that I just plugged in, as opposed to through the speaker. I'll put up a wiring diagram of this for you so you can see. It looks more complicated than it really is. It took a little bit of trial and error just to figure out how I was going to make it all work. But so I just soldered the new positive and negatives. I did it to the opposite side of the board. So the speaker was actually installed on this side, pointing out here. But when I started trying to figure out how I wanted to do this, I found putting it on the back side of the board gave me more clearance. So that's why I basically moved it. So the speaker would have been on this side, and now the connections are there. The speaker's still gonna sit there when the whole thing's assembled, and it's just gonna sit right in there. So what I did is put electrical tape over this to protect those connections. Let me redo that here real quick since I'm gonna put it back together. There we go, got that taped up because I don't want that to accidentally make contact, because it's actually gonna sit right there where it used to sit. But now I don't want it to hit the positive and the negative there or short on anything else. So that's why the electrical tape there. And yeah, so let me put this thing back together. All right, so the display is gonna slip into its little slot there. And then what I wanna do is get this speaker down in its little spot. And what I found is, get that power cable out of the way. What I found is routing it out like that works the best. So on this side of that little hole, and then the whole thing sort of compresses in there and gets held in when you put the screws in. It needs to sit flat on those posts. So that's why I have it routed right there, because that allows me to get it flat. Then the big screws are going to go in. A tip on these, every time I do screws, I run them backwards until I feel and hear it click, and then I know that it's threaded properly and you're not going to cross thread it. Little free tip there. So run it backwards, and you feel it sort of like drop into place. And make sure you didn't forget to put these buttons in if you took them out. So now that speaker is just sort of press fit in there, not tightly, but it's held in by the board there. And from the outside, you can't tell. It's not actually connected to the PCB. Now this button here is going to go over and then compress right there. And then now for this is sort of the challenge with all the cabling, because you have this piece here where the battery is that's got to sit flat, so everything's got to be up out of the way of that. So I just move it up into there, and we have to route this power cable through for the battery. And it went just like that. So make sure your glass is in there okay, and that everything collapses without a lot of pressure. And then we'll put on these other 4 screws. Same process, I run them backwards until I feel and hear a click. All right, battery goes in, and if all goes well, your shot timer works. And let me just double check the menu. I'll set a 2-second part time here. I went too fast. 2 seconds. Ready? 1 1000, 2 1000. Yep, okay. It works. Let's double check that the output still works. Okay, so that's coming out through the headphones. Back to the shot timer. All right, so it all works. Good thing, otherwise I'd have just destroyed a $100 shot timer. All right, everyone, that's it. That is the Pocket Pro 2 with an auxiliary output. And yeah, if you're interested in doing it, have fun. I'm surprised that more shot timers don't have this feature. I'm surprised I haven't seen anybody do this yet. So yeah, maybe I'm a pioneer in the industry, or maybe I just am a moron who likes to tinker with electronics. Anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.